Welcome to the Quick Bite Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Klinger. Today, I have a special guest, Geoff Alexander, the CEO of Wow Bao. First of all, how are you doing? And then tell me a little bit about what's new and exciting with Wow Bao, man. You've got a great business model. I know you guys seem like you're everywhere. I think I've seen you all over Walmart, which is pretty awesome. And then college campuses and airport stadiums. I can't get away from your brand, but tell the audience a little bit about you and what's going on. It's good to see you.
Well, thank you. And I don't want you to get away from the brand, so I need to be everywhere. Wow Bao is a quick serve, fast casual Asian brand. We started in 2003, part of Lettuce Entertain You Enterprises here in Chicago. I've been with Lettuce since 1993. In 2017, private equity pulled it out of Lettuce. Lettuce is still involved, still owns a piece of it, but we operate now as our own entity. Over the last decade or so, we've done brick and mortar stores, airports, college campuses, sports stadiums. We've done fully automated restaurants with no human interaction. We got involved in 2019 in the ghost kitchen space. We call it the delivery kitchen space, where we sell our product to other restaurants for them to sell on third-party delivery apps. We've launched about 1,000 locations across the country doing that over the last 5 years. And in the last 2 years, we've grown from 300 grocery store partners to about 10,000 freezer doors across the United States.
Wow, that is incredible.
Wow. See, you got the
Yeah.
name.
Yeah, it's so fitting. And, it's a real treat for me. Of all the podcast guests that I've hosted so far, the one name kept coming up to me. People said, you got to get Geoff Alexander on your show. And so it's a pleasure and an honor to have you here. And we want to dive in for the audience to understand your leadership journey and your growth path, and then how you've taken that to become the successful business executive that you are in running such an incredible organization as Wow Bao. So, Geoff, we're going to dive right into 10 questions. Everybody gets the same 10. We're going to jump on it right now, with number one being, what is the best piece of business advice you've ever received?
Back in, I think it was about 2004, give or take, I was offsite in Minnesota opening a new concept for Lettuce Entertain You, and I was building this. The walls were going up, and I called the CEO of Lettuce at the time, and I said, I really think this wall needs to be green, like Kermit the Frog green. And his advice to me, or his response to me, Kevin Brown is his name. He said, "It's just paint." And those 3 words of "it's just paint" launched really a confidence inside of me that I think was being held back, knowing that it's okay to make a mistake. Like, you can fix anything. I actually got a mug here that someone gave me when I shared that story, and they actually wrote on it, "It's just paint" for me. So I keep it here on my desk. But it's really, that's been probably the greatest leadership advice I got. Like, basically, you can make a mistake. It's okay.
That's fantastic, especially when so many people, they say, what is it? Perfection is the enemy of progress, and they're too afraid to get the analysis paralysis. So I appreciate those words of wisdom, Geoff. And speaking of words of wisdom, as a great leader yourself, what are those top 3 qualities that you look for in a great leader?
Yeah, what I think a leader needs to embody is trust, right? You have to build trust. I call it make more deposits and less withdrawals with your team. You need to have empathy, right? You have to be understanding as a leader, and you have to have vision. You have to be willing to innovate and evolve. So to me, it's really trust, empathy, and vision is what I look for in leadership and what I strive for on a daily basis.
And Geoff, there's a younger audience. I mentor a lot of folks that come through our programs at Comcast that are, just getting started, and they're trying to find their way. And they think, well, how do I get into leadership? I'm studying it in school, or, I've kind of grown up being told that you should be a leader, but, they really need it to be defined. What would you say is a good piece of advice to become a leader?
Yeah, a saying that's been around in Lettuce Entertain You for as long as I know, and I've sort of grown up with this line, is leaders lead. If you're out with your friends, if you're out with your colleagues, somebody always seems to sort of step up or has that presence. We all have that inside of us. Some of us embrace it, and some of us don't want that role. But at the end of the day, leaders lead. So you have it within you. It's just taking that risk to go do it and stepping up.
Would you say on your journey as a young person and to this role today, that you were making mistakes and you were kind of, taking the opportunity to be the one to raise the hand and take initiative to become that leader?
I mean, yes, there. Anytime something comes up, I have an opinion on it. I've worked really hard over the years to hold my opinion and let others speak first, and sort of digest and read the room as opposed to jumping into it. But for many, many years of my life, when something came up, whether it was a problem that needed to be fixed or a question that had to be answered, my hand got raised or I jumped into action before most people did. And I grew up doing a lot of sports, nothing, I was never the star athlete of the school, but I could hold my own in everything I did. And I think sports really teaches you that, right? And whether it's an individual sport or a team sport, you learn how to communicate, you learn confidence. And that's really sort of what I think gave a lot of it to me.
Excellent. And then belief really is about having faith in either others or yourself or someone having faith in you. What role has faith played in your business life?
Yeah, I think the thing that I think that has sort of been a guiding light for me and a guiding principle is probably something that my grandmother taught me really as a young boy growing up, and that's she didn't teach to me as hospitality, right? She taught to me as manners, but to me, it's really in this business that we're in. It's hospitality. It's putting others first. It's treating others as you want to be treated. It's actually treating them better than you want to treat, right? It's exceeding people's expectations and really taking care of people. And I think in the last 2 years, with all the talk of mental health that's gone on in the world, there's this saying you see everywhere now is that you don't know what anyone else is going through. I think that's more prevalent in our world now than it was in my days of growing up. And if you pause to really think about the other person, it allows you to be a better partner, a better business person, uh, uh, a better person of hospitality, which is what we're doing in this industry. So that's sort of been what I focus on and try to do on a daily basis with my team, with my family, with my business partners, with the consumer.
Yeah, no, I love that, Jeff. And I love that you keep it down to the basic level of it's still human beings doing business together, showing care, showing empathy, and understanding each other's stories. And you're right. I mean, it's really more important than ever that we lean in and know each other. And that's one of the genesis behind the podcast here is that I think there's a persona of like, I look at an executive like you, Jeff, and I think very accomplished, highly successful. So many people say great things about you, but do they really know you? And this podcast for me was a platform opportunity to bring a community of people together to know each other maybe a little bit more.
No, I appreciate that. And to go along with just to add on to the last answer I gave you, I sort of look at the Ritz Carlton a lot. They have their guiding principle. Their mission statement is "Ladies and gentlemen, serving ladies and gentlemen." And I think that that's so important that no one is beneath another. Everybody is there to show respect and give people what their need is. And I think that's really, an important aspect that gets overshadowed a lot until people need it as opposed to living it.
Yeah, that's a great point about the Ritz-Carlton because I know of several stories, having heard some other very successful brands. One of them that's closed on Sunday, they model after the Ritz-Carlton, and the founder of that company was really looking to them as excellence. And if you hear the stories of how the employees at Ritz-Carlton are empowered to show care and to
Yes.
delight and surprise and just do things that are next level, that's what makes people remark about them and go back and have that loyalty. So I love that you've got that leadership mindset. That's fantastic. So who has had the greatest impact on you, Jeff, professionally, and why?
You know, I I don't know if there's one person. I mean, look, when I was very young, I lost my father, and I started working at a very young age. Partly because to stay out of trouble, and partly because I wanted to make sure I always had money in my pocket. And so, at a young age, I had two brothers who ran a grocery store that I worked at growing up. They were Bob and Frank Whitney. They both passed on, but I started working with them at the age of 13. I worked with them through my till about I was 20 years old, and I learned everything about business from them. Then I've been with Lettuce Entertaining now for 32 years. So between our founder Rich Melman and our CEO Kevin Brown, there's no ending to what I've learned. And now with private equity, John Shulkin, who's the chairman of the board for Wow Bao, is teaching me an entire different side of business. But then I look at my entire team. right? The team that I built over the last 5 years here at Wow Bao, where I'm hiring real executives who have worked in other industries, whether it's my CFO or my strategic growth head or my VP of culinary. Everybody has insight into areas that I don't. And as a real leader, I don't think you're ever done learning. And I think it's so important to surround yourself with people who can always teach you something. The trick to being a good leader is not knowing everything. The trick to being a good leader is being able to how to get the information out of your people that is going to move your business forward. And that is something I'm learning and practicing every day. And by constantly surrounding myself with other people, that's allowing me to constantly learn from them. So I hope I haven't met the absolute best person yet who's taught me, but been very fortunate to have a whole slew of mentors.
If your answer to that question could have a book written about it, and I think you should write it one day. That was a phenomenal answer. If no one hears anything else from this podcast, that was absolute gold that young people should take to heart, and really anyone in business should take to heart, that we don't have to know everything and that your best talent is right around you. Take the time to listen and learn and study it and lean in and give them that voice. Who is one company that you admire and why?
I think it's so important in your industry to look at companies not in your industry, right? Because otherwise you're always chasing somebody else's business. And if you look at other businesses, other industries, there's things you can learn from them to bring into yours. I love Apple. Everything I have is Apple, from, the iPad to the phone to the computer to the watch to God knows what, right? And to take the innovation and the thought and bring it into your business. I love that Google tells all of their employees to work at 80% on what they're told to and 20% freedom. And that's how they create. I mentioned the Ritz-Carlton already. I don't think anyone should be focused on one other group, because there's so much incredible talent and excitement in the world. But if you made me pick one, I'd probably stick with Apple.
That's a phenomenal company. Shifting gears a little bit into a heavier topic, everyone in life has gone through some sort of adversity. And you mentioned losing your father at a young age and working with the family and keeping yourself out of trouble and staying focused. But can you tell me about a time that you overcame adversity and what was the biggest lesson you learned out of it?
There was, when I was with Lettuce Entertaining, I started with them in 93 and I became a partner in 06. And I got invited to join what's called the steering committee, which is the head of all the divisions would meet once a month or once every 2 months and talk about the direction of the company and talk about what was going on and so on. And I would go to these meetings and I really felt like no one listened to me, that I would speak and everyone else would just keep having the conversations, or no one really wanted my input. And I really thought I had great things to contribute. Now, whether I was the youngest partner in the room or whatever it may be, I didn't have a voice. And I decided I was very frustrated. This was probably starting of a down point in my career. But we have a saying is, are you threatened or are you challenged? And I decided not to be threatened. I decided to be challenged about it. And I went out and joined and took a 3-day course in New York City called Own the Room. And it was about public speaking and basically about how to own the room. And on day one, I think we're 2 hours into the session, and there's 400 people in the room, CEOs from all over the country, different businesses, actually all over the world. And they wanted someone to get up and speak about anything they wanted to and get critiqued. And I'm like, I paid money to be here and I want to own the room. And I just stood up and got in front of 400 strangers to talk about I don't know what and let them give me feedback. And that sort of pushed me to realize I can do this. I am as important in the room as anybody else. I just have to look inside myself about how to communicate it. I'll also just tag on to that answer again, because you said we're diving a little deeper. As I mentioned, how my father passed away when I was 8 years old. My mother passed away when I was 29. And I got into therapy at the time. And so I've been with the same therapist now for, about 25 years. Every week for 25 years, I do my best not to miss it. And it has been life-changing for me. And it's not so much that I'm in therapy now. It's evolved to a life coach, to a business coach, right? To an executive coach, to just somebody now you can just let the steam out. And I really believe that it is so important for strong leaders to have an outlet. You can't take your work home with you. When you go home, you have other responsibilities, and needs, and people are always counting on you. And you can't share your worries, your fears, and your headaches to your team beneath you. And it's hard to go to your board with this kind of stuff, and you need an outlet. So whether you surround yourself with another group of peers who you trust, or you find that person that you can just vomit up to once a week and get it out there, is so incredibly important, that the younger generation of today, and especially even the older generation today, is so adverse to doing, that it has been a game changer for my success.
Jeff, wow, that is so powerful what you just said. And I know that that's a story that people need to hear, because it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to not be okay. And the worst thing that any of us could do is bottle it up, keep it to ourselves, because walking that journey alone, it doesn't help anyone. And to bring it into the light, have someone you can, like you said, just to get your bucket dumped to, and to share how you're feeling is so important. I wear the Giving Kitchen hat a lot, and that's because I serve on their board. I believe in their mission, and they help food service workers that go through crisis of various kinds, and one of them being mental health. And I have a really good friend and business partner named Bryant McKinney. He's 6'8" and 407 pounds now. He played in the NFL, won the Super Bowl, Pro Bowler. He was University of Miami, Florida Hurricane, won national titles. He was actually the last lineman to be considered for a finalist in the Heisman Trophy ballot. And he won all these accolades, and he has a foundation that supports men coming together to not carry that burden alone, and to get open and transparent about our mental health journeys and struggles, because they think, oh, you're a big tough guy, or, Jeff, you're this strong leader. You have this persona and you feel like you're all put together looking at you, but you could have real challenges going on. And there's no point in walking in alone when there's so many great resources out
Yeah. And I want to say, you said, I could have challenges. Everybody has challenges. There's not a single person out there that doesn't. Nobody's alone. And you also made a statement earlier where, about sharing what's going on. So whether it's right or wrong, I don't share with my team, right? They work for me. I want to hear everything that's going on with them. I want to know where they're battling, how I can help them, but I don't think they want to see me struggle. That could be wrong on my side, right? But I recognize that I need to be strong for my team. So I need to find somebody else that I can go to. And I think a lot of leaders, when they're up and coming, have been promoted where they had a certain relationship with their colleagues. Then they get promoted and they don't distance that relationship. They keep that. And that can really get you in trouble. And being vulnerable is one thing, but there's people to be vulnerable with, and there's people to be understanding and empathetic with, and there's people you can be real with. And I just think that you need to find those buckets and use them correctly. At least that's how I do it to make it. But to your point is, everybody's going through something. I have a fantastic group of about 6 restaurant CEOs, and it's one of those things where you can pick up the phone at any moment and call any one of them and just share the bad day you're having, because they've been there. Now, I don't recommend that for everyone. You got to find people you trust, because we're all battling for business. But once you find those people, that is like a brotherhood, that is such a safety net, that just makes your day so much easier. And not enough people are finding that cohort, that group, that family, to help that they get them through the day.
Jeff, this is absolutely powerful advice. And man, I'm telling you, thank you for sharing that. It's really important that that voice is being shared, and that what you've said is such sage advice. I wish somebody had poured that into me when I was younger, because I've been in leadership roles and I've made some of those mistakes where, to your point, that really resonated when you said you kind of come up through the ranks and now you're the leader, but you're kind of defaulting back to the familiar of the relationships you had, when you really do need to keep that professional separation and find that new person, that new group that you can relate to. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that.
And our generation didn't grow up this way, right? You had to be strong all the time and not have anything. It's just different now. And it's so hard for our generation to be willing to.
Oh yeah, yeah, and they've never had more pressures and things coming at them than we ever had. We'd go outside when we were kids, ride a bike, come in when it's dark, that kind of thing. And now it's the social media and the pressures and all the challenges and the competitive world that we live in is so different. And everything's on display. Everyone knows everything about each other from a public persona perspective. So you're right. I mean, wow, that's a powerful amount of insight that you've given us. On a lighter note, shifting gears, we only got a few more questions here. What's a fun fact about Geoff Alexander that a lot of people may not know?
Well, in my network, they all seem to know, but with your network of who's listening, I have been teaching a spin class, indoor cycling, for the last 15 years. So that's a fun fact that a lot of people don't know.
All right, so you got the cardio going, and I'm assuming that
To yell at people when they cannot yell back at me because they're so out of breath.
so you get paid to yell at people, basically. That's amazing, and then they can't say anything back. Like you said, they're over there sucking wind on the bike. So that would be me included, if that was the case. I do a stairmaster. I've never done spin, but I may have to take one of your classes. That would be fun. How much time do you dedicate to unwinding per day, and what's your favorite way? I mean, what do you do to just get away from it all? What's your thing?
It's the hardest thing. I shouldn't say the hardest thing because there's a number of hard things, but one of the hardest things to learn in your career is work-life balance. And the only way you can learn work-life balance is by taking the time, right? And you're going to feel guilty. That's going to be as soon as you try it, that's when the phone's going to ring or that important email is going to come. Like there is no way to make it work, but you just have to do it. I take 2 weeks off at Christmas time with my family. I take 2 weeks off in August to go away during the summer with the family, and those are incredibly important to me. I do everything I can come 6 p.m. Monday through Friday to not reach out to my team unless I really have to. If I do reach out to people after those hours, I tell them in the email or the phone call if I need a response or I can wait till the next day and they just need to think about it. Like I'm very respectful of people's time, but I also make myself available. And what I've learned is if you make yourself available in this modern age where people can reach you whenever, you have the ability to not have to respond right away, right? There are certain people you feel like you have to respond to right away and certain people you don't. But uh, making it a choice makes things better. I think the younger people today, when they get a text message, they have to respond right away. Like no one's even thinking about their answers. They're just responding. And if you pause for like 3 seconds and just think, do I need to respond to this one right now? It teaches you work-life balance. And the last part I'll give to that large answer is I love my family. I love my wife. I love my daughter. I love my son. And it is so important to be present because my team expects me to be present when I'm here in the office. My family expects me to be present there. And if you make an effort, and it has to be an effort for work-life balance, the rewards are fantastic. And with that, do not miss your responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've really summed it up perfectly, Geoff. And where does this passion come from? The last question and is really what drives you. What is that why for you? There's obviously you're an amazing leader, as evidenced by the answers. I think this is going to be one of the audience's favorite shows. I really do believe that. I think we could literally write a book off of everything that you said, and that your answers are just absolutely incredible because they're so real. They're so relevant. So, I know your team probably, if I had to work for you or if I was given the opportunity to work for you, I would feel very fortunate to have someone in your seat. But you're obviously somebody that has something that drives that. What is that passion? Where does it come from?
There's an old Will Ferrell movie called Talladega Nights, the Ricky Bobby story. And there's a line in the movie that if you're not first, you're last. And I've sort of made that the mantra of Wow Bao. We do a lot of stuff before other people, but I'm a competitive person. I really am at the end of the day, and I like to win. I don't like to win at the cost of other people or the cost of the business, but I like to win. And it's exciting to have wins. It's depressing to have losses and to have failures. But if you look at the losses and the failures as teaching moments and a stepping stone to get to the win, that allows you to embrace opportunity because you're not afraid anymore. And once you get over the fear, then it's just like, let's just go have fun, right? If you're going to sit there and be afraid to do this or afraid to do that, that holds back who you are and what you bring to the table. And I've been beaten up over the years that my passion has been misconstrued as anger, right? That I want something so badly that people think I'm yelling at them or I'm being too demanding or whatever it may be. And I think you have to learn how to communicate to different people in different ways. And when you learn how to do that, then the emotion that you're bringing to the table will be understood by everybody. And I appreciate that you're seeing all this as passion, right? And not as anger or yelling or screaming. And it's all evolution and it all takes time and it takes work. But at the end of the day, if you're not first, you're last.
Geoff, I can relate. I've been told that when I'm passionate on certain things that I can get an angry face or this ugly face. And I'm like, I'm really happy inside. I'm just passionate about this. And I've had to work on that. That was someone spoke into me and said, hey, be careful that your face is, you're full of life and energy but don't let your face say something else. And I was like, wow, I didn't even realize that until I paid attention to it and I grew from that. Geoff, this has been a masterclass. Honestly, I'm going to probably distribute this to every college in America and say, listen, just skip the business courses. Just listen to Geoff Alexander, the CEO of Wow Bao. This has been an absolute joy to spend time with you. I wish you nothing but continued success and blessings for you, your team, and your family. Thank you again for spending time with the Quick Bite podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate it.